Right, welcome back to the first part of the three-lecture series on the phylum Chordata. This is a tremendously diverse and large phyla that encompasses where we stand as mammals and humans. So let's kind of look at an overall gestalt view of where we essentially came from. So in the last video series, we talked about the echinoderms, the starfishes, sea urchins, and sea cucumbers. And for the purposes of time, we're going to kind of gloss over and kind of glean past this phylum here, Hemichordate, and look kind of at this free-swimming chordate ancestor here. So from this free-swimming chordate ancestor, we have three major subphylums that have diversified off of this one ancestor. We have the Urochordates, which are the tunicates, Cephalochordates, which are the lancelets, and then we have Vertebrata. And within Vertebrata, there's lots of different diversity from acnathans to cartilaginous fishes to real bony fishes to your tetrapods. Really like this illustration here. And so looking at the ancestry of all chordates here, we're talking in the Precambrian Cambrian explosion. So we're talking somewhere along the line of 500 to 550 million years ago. This body plan and these master genes sequences already set in motion. And as we go through closer and closer to current history, you'll see that depending on the width of the line here, some of these branches of the tree of life have diversified into more. So if you look at the lancelets in the Subphylum Cephalochordata, not a lot of diversification has occurred within this. On the contrast, if you look at the bony fish, look how much diversification that we've had. We've had a little bit of extinction event right around the Mesozoic area, and then a explosion of more diversity as we get closer and closer to the Cenozoic and present day. So that's just kind of how you read one of these types of phylogenetic trees showing the diversity of animal life. So again, the broader the tips are, the more species are alive today. In the echinoderms, you kind of see here early in the Paleozoic, the fossil record looks like more diversification, some little extinction there, etc. So yeah, let's look at the phylum Chordata, and there are four major characteristics of all chordates. So essentially, the synapomorphy to be a chordate. So if I am a chordate, what do I have to have in me at the very least? We have these kind of four things. There are a couple of different textbooks will add a fifth one and sometimes even add a sixth, but we'll focus on the major four here. The first one is a dorsal hollow nerve cord. And so for the first time in the animal kingdom, we see the transition from where normally from up until now we've studied with a ventral nerve cord. So the nerve cord has always been on the belly side. That is flipped when we get to the chordates, and it has now gone to the back side. Now, as you can imagine, with knowing our anatomy, we have to protect our spinal cord, and that is our major adaptation is occurred in the notochord, and the notochord in early animals there basically just kind of gave it structure and support. As we developed and evolved over time, that has essentially become the true backbone in true vertebrates there. We have a pharyngeal gill pouch, and so in all of life, all of chordates, even humans in the womb there, we have these gill pouches and gill slits. And amphibians, these became the glands and auditory canal. And again, in humans, especially in human embryos there, in the 6 to 8 week development, we have these little gill pouches there that is just a vestigial remnant of a time long, long ago. All chordates have a post-anal tail, and so in your a lot of your obviously your higher evolved primates like humans and gorillas and chimpanzees, that post-anal tail has disappeared. But even again, early in development, we had this post-anal tail. So behind this, so we can see. Some other textbooks will throw in a characteristics of a thyroid gland that sits on the gill slit there, which is kind of neat if you think about it, because that gill slit, that throat area is where our thyroid gland still sits. It's going to secrete and trap mucus there to help with the breathing and the gill slit. So let's look at this body plan here. A characteristic here is Amphioxus, which is a good model of early chordate life. So we see here we have a brain on the dorsal side again, followed by the nerve cord here. We'll look at a video showing this brain development and the genes there. It's pretty remarkably done. The nodal cord. So the nodal cord again running on the ventral side. It is different and separate than the dorsal nerve cord. So you got a nerve cord and you have a nodal cord. So this is just going to be that rod that's going to extend and help strengthen and structure the body plan. These pharyngeal gill slits there typically are on the ventral side, which kind of they still are today. That's going to help lots of your fishes in early animal life continue to breathe. And then followed by post-anal muscles with segmented tail, which most of our vertebrates and chordates have. Again, and this structure, this body plan has been lost in most of our advanced primates. So again, a fifth one, depending on what textbooks you look into, they have this endostyle or thyroid gland that's going to help secrete mucus there and help trap food particles in this cavity for our filter feeders. And even some textbooks even include a sixth, which is a ventral heart. So if you remember some of the earlier body plans like we studied in like the crayfish and in the mollusks, for example, the heart was on the dorsal side. But now we transition where now we got our ventral nerve cord. Our ventral nerve cord is now switched to the back, the dorsal. Now we flip-flopped essentially where our vital organs are located, which is kind of a neat adaptation there. So again, here is just a drawing of Amphioxus, a very nice little clean drawing here. So you'll want to know these four major characteristics. We'll just focus on the four, being the dorsal hollow nerve cord, a nodal cord here in this orangey color, gill slits, pharyngeal gill slits, and the post-anal tail. Okay, so focus on those four. And I want you to know the three major subphyla within the phylum Chordata. So the three major subphyla are Urochordata, which is going to be your tunicates. Cephalochordata is your lancelets, and then finally the subphylum you're probably most familiar with is vertebrates, the vertebrata. And so this video, we're just going to look at the first two major subphyla here. And the next two videos, we'll look at fishes specifically, going from agnathans all the way up to the cartilaginous sharks. And then the last video, we'll look at the evolution of tetrapods. So in this video series here, we're going to just look at the subphylums Urochordata and Cephalochordata. So the Urochordates, notice the tunicates are your sea squirts. And you can kind of see a drastic difference in the larva form compared to the adult form. So we do have some complete metamorphosis here. And this is hard for me to imagine, again, being landlocked here in Tennessee, that this is an animal. But when I show you the next slide of the dissected view of this, you'll be able to see that. So looking here at the larva, you can again see a post-anal tail, which again is one of the characteristics. From this view, you can't see nodal cord and dorsal nerve cord, as well as the gill slits. But look at the defining characteristics. So nodal cord and nerve cord are only found in larval stages. So once we move to adult, we don't have a nodal cord, we don't have a nerve cord, which is even itself remarkable. So how do these things know and be able to sense their environment? But most of these are going to be just filter feeders. So to transition here, so here you can see this. So look how much these things have changed over time. So don't concern yourself with the anatomy of this tunicate here. It's just remarkable to think that this is a core in the Chordata phylum here. So pretty neat little thing here. Okay. So, moving on to Cephalochordata. So, defining the characteristics of the lancelets. So here is a picture of an Amphioxus that lives in the sand, in the shallow sand regions there. So the notochord extends beyond the nerve cord to the anterior end of the animal. So the anterior again is toward the head. And in this region, we're going to start to see the development of the genes for the brain. The notochord is contractile. You can see the gill slits here. See the bustle there, as well as the rudimentary vertebral column there, vertebral column. So they have a definite mouth, but no jaw, which is going to be a structure that we see quite often in early marine life, where we have a mouth region, designated mouth, head region, so that's cephalization, but we don't see this jaw. Long pharynx with up to 100 gill slits, so you can kind of see there. And they breathe directly through their body surfaces, which shouldn't be that big of a surprise, as a lot of our animal lives that we study today has breathed through the help of their body surfaces. They are almost completely see-through, as you can see there. Simple digestive system, heart. They do have a closed circulatory system, which kind of again sets the pathway for us as well, with the notochord and nerve cord running their entire bodies. So, looking here at the anatomy of the Amphioxus here. So rostrum again just meaning more of the nose or mouth region. Here are the tentacles there that's going to help them filter feed. Our gill slits running through. On top of our notochord is in white. Our dorsal nerve cord is in blue. Our muscular post-anal tail, a caudal fin there, intestines going out the anus, because again, it is a complete digestive system, and as well as the gonad. So take a look at this spinal column, and then we'll look at the development of the brain. So let me move up here, just because it's easier to see. Right, check it out.
Amphioxus has a nerve cord which relays commands from the brain. It has gill slits, just as human embryos do. It has segmented muscles that allow it to move, but the real innovation was the notochord, a stiffening rod reinforcing its shape. This was the precursor of a backbone. We carry vestiges of a notochord, the discs in our spine. Our spines place us in a special group of chordates called vertebrates. The backbone is the crux of every vertebrate body. It is the central scaffolding of the skeleton.
So again, the notochord is just a precursor there that will eventually become a major adaptation for our fishes and definitely our tetrapods as we try to come up with ways in which to thrive and fall and occupy new niches in a terrestrial environment. So going from marine and freshwater to terrestrial, you got to have some way to reinforce muscular support so that you can not only can you support your internal organs, but also your own body weight. And so this notochord was a huge adaptation in the making that allowed for the development of tetrapods. Check out this little video here of the brain development. Found it this morning. Just absolutely thought it was incredible. Kind of reinforces lots of things that we've talked about in our DNA and genetics unit. And as well as many of you I know like to go to the beach, you may be able to now find these when you go. So check out the brain development here.
Studying the DNA of ancient organisms is a window into our distant past. And if you look hard enough, you can find some creatures today that haven't changed much in hundreds of millions of years. This coast is home to a relative that shows us how ancient the genetic recipe is for building our brain.
Yeah, how do you know where to look? Well, certainly want to go deep into this.
Meet Peter Holland, head of zoology at Oxford University in England.
Right, okay. Well, we could start trying around
X
here.
marks the spot?
X marks the spot. Let's give it a go. Right. Okay, so what do I do? Just shake it. You got one. There's no Amphioxus.
We got it.
Whoa, look at that little guy go. Hey! Just dip it in the water again, you'll see it. It'll flick around.
Well, they really flick.
There you see. Yes.
Hey, that's beautiful. Look at that. Which is the front? It doesn't look like much, but this tiny creature, called Amphioxus, has much to tell us about our own brains.
That is cool. Okay, that ranks cool. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple of these. So I brought this from the anatomy lab in Chicago. This is a human brain. And when I look at this, I don't find any obvious similarities to that.
Deep in the genes of this animal and the development of this animal, and deep in the genes of us and the development of us, there are the similarities. So if you just take a look at that,
He's just moved.
Oh, he twitched away. Yeah, he's
Pretty active.
Holy cow. Oh, that is beautiful. God, they're so clear, too. You can see right through them. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. Amphioxus lives in the sand of the ocean floor, filtering algae out of the water. They have a simple nerve cord that runs the length of the body, which ends with a tiny swelling invisible to the naked eye.
if you look at the front end of this animal, you don't see it all expanded into a large skull or brain region. It's just pointed.
We might not have similar brains, but what we do have are similar genes. To make the forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain, you need a series of control genes to tell the cells within the developing brain where they are. They map out the brain's 3 basic regions. Versions of the same master genes that help form our own brains are also active in Amphioxus, but here they're simply building the primitive nerve cord and the tiny swelling at its front. This means that the genetic roots of our own brains can be seen in creatures that first arose over 500 million years ago.
I think it gives us a glimpse into where our brains came from, into the basic organisation of the brain of our ancestors. I mean, I found that mind-blowing.
He's hot.
Sorry.
He's going
We have an
to
escapee,
Hallmarks.
sorry.
He's on land living.
He's gone road. Yeah, he's gone for the next transition.
Exactly. He's in the Devonian now.
So pretty neat there. That those 2 videos again showing the adaptations of what will become the spinal cord, spinal column, and the notochord, and that even as something as simple as we might think simple as its Amphioxus, the brain, the genes are already there for the 3 major parts of our brain. Just absolutely remarkable there. So this concludes the first part of this lecture series. So get ready to check out the other 2 parts on the evolution of fishes. And then the last one again will be the evolution of tetrapods. So again, hope you enjoyed and hope to see you guys soon.